Bernie Sanders had a debate with Lindsey Graham today. I believe it was like an hour long. It was on Fox News. It was on, obviously I'm not a huge fan of Fox News, but I like that they're doing this. Apparently they're going to start doing debates between different senators. I really appreciate that. And their first one was between Lindsey Graham, Bernie. Apparently they got into a lot of stuff regarding like economics. I'm very, very happy about that. I was would have been disappointed if I had seen that it was all about January 6th. I don't know. I just don't think that would be a very fruitful debate. I don't have the full debate at the moment. I don't know if they'll be posting it to their YouTube. Hopefully, I want to do a full kind of debate breakdown of this exchange. But for now, we have a few clips, and so I haven't even seen these clips actually yet. I wanted to watch them on stream, kind of give a live reaction. So this first one is apparently in regards to Social Security, and so let's hear it.
You describe problems, but your answer is always the government. It's always socialism.
Social Security is a government program. I'm sorry about it.
Senator Sanders, your Medicare for All program eliminates private sector health care. It's a $40 trillion revenue increase. It will cost more to maintain Medicare for All than the entire federal government today. There has to be some sense of responsibility here. You just can't tax people into oblivion.
You forgot to tell people, Lindsey, you're right. Social Security has a solvency issue. What the actuaries say, we want 75 years of funding coming into Social Security to maintain for 75 years. What I advocated does that.
You describe...
Okay, reasonable back and forth. Obviously, we'd prefer to see the context around there. I think that Lindsey Graham... So Lindsey Graham there, he said $40 trillion in revenues. I assumed he meant $40 trillion in expenses would be the increase. So it's not... There's a negative the actual price tag that's a very, very high estimate. First of all, the only way you get the 40 trillion number is if you went over 10 years. That's I assume what Lindsey Graham is referencing. If you looked at it on a year by year basis, 4 trillion would be a very high estimate, but that is a reasonable. Most estimates are like 3 to 3.5 trillion for Medicare for All on a yearly basis. The issue he runs into is that if you had a fully subsidized, all-encompassing Medicare for All program, you would have no more private health insurance expenses. And if you actually look at our current private health insurance expenses, it's roughly $32 trillion over the next 10 years is what our private health insurance outlay. Like if you take all total, and this also includes like Medicare and Medicaid, take total national spending for healthcare, it'd be roughly $32 trillion over the next 10 years. If you take that high estimate by Lindsey Graham, that's 40 trillion. Like I said, that is one of the higher ones. If you take the lower estimates, it's like 30 trillion. It's like 3 trillion a year. Very, very reasonable. You know, a couple $10 billion. Like if you take the high estimate, what would that be? 0.8 trillion, so 800 billion extra a year. Is a decent amount extra, but you'd also be covering every single American. You wouldn't have tens of millions of Americans that are currently uninsured. You wouldn't have Americans that go into bankruptcy because they can't afford their health care. And so I think that the other kind of issue with Lindsey Graham's statement is that he brings up Social Security, and Lindsey Graham is one of these individuals that will conflate any government action with socialism. And Bernie is, I think he gives a little too much leeway to the idea that Social Security is going to be insolvent. It does have a slight solvency issue. Like it's not nothing. You do have to do something. Like I believe Bernie's proposed lifting the cap on taxable income for Social Security. That's kind of what he's referencing. Because right now, let's say you make $60,000 a year. Every single one of those dollars that you make is going to be taxed towards Social Security. If you make $500,000 a year, only your first $140,000, so what is that, like 30% or so? Only 30% of your income will be taxed for Social Security. The rest of it isn't able to be taxed for that. And so you have someone making $60,000 a year, 100% of their income is being taxed for Social Security. Someone making $500,000, only 40% of their income is being taxed for Social Security. It doesn't really seem right. In my opinion, they should remove that cap. Every dollar someone makes should be able to be taxed for Social Security. And then you very quickly get rid of a lot of the solvency issues that people point to. But the reality is, the Social Security is one of the most securely funded programs in our government right now. There's far more money that's been set aside for Social Security than the military. I don't think Lindsey Graham would ever talk about the military being insolvent. But so that is kind of the first kind of little piece here. Let's go to this one. So this one is about Bernie talking about defunding the police. It's a really short one. Let's kind of see. Let's start from the beginning.
I never called for the defunding of the police.
I stand corrected.
What I do believe in is a former mayor, as a matter of fact, who worked very well with our police department, is we need community-based policing that reflects the people in those communities, that we have to fight racism in every way that we can. But I have never called for defunding the police.
So I obviously wanted to fact check this one. I didn't actually see the clip, but I saw that was kind of the claim being made. And so yeah, looks like it checks out. Bernie seems to that back when this was all going on, Bernie broke with the squad, said that he did not support defunding the police. When asked on it, he said, "No, I don't. I think that what we need to do is understand that there needs to be major police reform all across this country. We are tired of seeing the same thing week after week and year after year. We do not want to see innocent African Americans shot in cold blood." So I think that's an area that needs significant amount of work, and I hope that Congress begins work on that immediately. This is just speculation on my mind, but one of the people that has worked fairly closely with the Bernie Sanders campaign is Stephanie Kelton. Stephanie Kelton is a very big proponent of modern monetary theory. Basically, what modern monetary theory espouses is that when it comes to how the federal government should look at its budget, the debt isn't really a primary concern. The debt is, when the government has control over its own currency, it can create dollars. It can literally just create dollars. Debt isn't the issue. The issue is inflation. You don't want to create so many dollars that it causes inflation. So if you allocate those dollars in productive ways, if you create new dollars or you take out loans, you can effectively create dollars without causing enormous amounts of inflation, as long as it's stimulative spending, as long as it's things like infrastructure, as long as it's healthcare. Healthcare would be a very stimulative form of spending. And so I think that Bernie, this, like I said, this is my speculation, perhaps because of Kelton's influence, Bernie doesn't like the defund the police kind of mantra because it puts too much focusing on the budgeting aspect of policing, when really that's not what we want. Like, what should the police be doing? How do we want the police to be functioning? Do we want them to be as militarized as they currently are? Do we want them to be as quick to go to violence as they currently are? Those are the kind of key questions. When you focus it on like kind of it almost becomes a math question when you talk about the budget. You play around with different police budgets, and does this amount of money, much amount of the money, need to be going to this area when it should be going to this area? What we should be focusing on is where should that money be going. That seems to be the direction Bernie has taken, which I enjoy. And so we have one final clip, and then, like I said, hopefully we will get the full kind of debate so that we can go through it, all of it. But so let's listen to this clip here. This one seems to be about Donald Trump talking about the election being stolen.
I think many leading political scientists will tell you that right now we're looking, for the first time in my lifetime and yours, at a real threat to the existence of democracy in America. And you know why? Because we have a former president, his name is Donald Trump, who goes around the country telling people, "Hey, I won the election. In fact, I probably won it by a landslide, but they stole it. They took it away from me." All right? Now, that happens to be what we call a big lie. And yet many of the Republicans that Senator Graham are asking you to vote for are maintaining that big lie. What does that mean? It goes beyond Trump. It goes beyond the 2020 election. It means what they are saying is the entire system, you can't trust anybody. And if you can't trust the election results, then what is the obvious alternative? We need a strong man, all right? Conservatives went to, I think it was Hungary, to meet with Mr. Orban, who runs an authoritarian type society. So the struggle we're facing is not just that Lindsey and I disagree on this or that issue, which we do. It is the future of American democracy and whether we move to authoritarianism based on, among other things, a very big lie.
Well, quickly, can you address that, Senator?
Trump lost the election.
Can you address that, Senator? I mean, can you say definitively the election was not stolen?
Yeah, I voted to certify the election. There was some mail-in balloting chicanery out there, but no, I voted to certify the election. President Biden's the president. And whether
Did he win the election?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about all of the candidates out there who are trying to say that he did? Your Republican candidates that you want people to vote for?
Well, what about the people saying defund the police? You talk to them, I'll talk to that crowd.
Right. Your crowd is a lot larger than my crowd.
So here's the point. Why is he talking about Trump? Because he can't talk about anything else.
So we don't know the context. It looked like this was the section of the debate where they were being asked questions by Brett Baer. So I don't know if Bernie just brought up Trump out of nowhere or if he was asked a question about him. Who knows? We'll have to know. Let's assume Bernie just brought him up out of nowhere. There's a few interesting angles to this, right? So one, Bernie touches actually on the CPAC that was held in Hungary. I think that there's a growing people want to throw the word fascist around a lot when they kind of talk about this, what's happening right now. When you see like Narendra Modi's India, when you see Jair Bolsonaro's Brazil, when you see Viktor Orban's Hungary. I've heard the word proto-fascist kind of thrown around. I don't know if any of these accurately describe. I think that maybe I don't know if it necessarily meets the bar for fascism. Was what I'm saying. But it is this nationalist right-wing movement that is growing. Tucker Carlson spoke at the CPAC for Hungary. Anyway, I'm going to be doing actually a video going kind of deeper into all of this. Anyway, there are troubling things of this kind of international, for lack of a better word, international nationalist right-wing movement that is growing, and it is solidifying, and they're far more organized than the international left wing right now, and I think that's very concerning. But I think that what's disappointing about this exchange is the fact that Lindsey Graham, at least ostensibly, says that he believes that Joe Biden won. And I think that the issue there is I do wish for this question specifically that you had someone like Ted Cruz, that you had like someone that basically doesn't think that the election was rightfully done. Ted Cruz was one of the people leading the way to not certify the election results. Obviously, like I don't know if Bernie would even debate Marjorie Taylor Greene or like Lauren Boebert, but that would be more interesting for this question because for just as a rhetorical point, Lindsey Graham is just saying, oh yeah, I disagree with them, you disagree with the defund the police people, it's kind of a wash, rather than getting into the substance of the issue. Because I think the better question for Bernie would have been, if you believe that Trump didn't really win the election, and this is his main thing that he's talking about right now. Why will you support him in 2024 if he runs? Like, why would you support someone that is so willing to do this? And that's kind of, I'm very conflicted on this, right? I'm very conflicted in the sense that Trump it was absolutely a threat to democracy, what Trump was doing, at least American democracy. The idea that not wanting to concede, I thought it was overstated when people thought that he would stay, like try to stay through force. I didn't think that would happen at any point. Obviously, January 6th was very concerning. And that was a sort of forceful event, but that wasn't as directly impacted by Trump. That was more Trump created the circumstances for January 6th to happen than, a sort of forceful attempt at Trump to stay in office. Some people would say that's a distinction without a difference. I do think it's a meaningful difference, though. That being said, though, 2024 comes around, Donald Trump runs again. Let's say he doesn't win. I think there is a 0% chance that Donald Trump accepts the outcome of that election. I genuinely do. I don't. Why would he? Why would he accept that? When he knows he clearly lost this time, he didn't choose to accept it, and now this would be his last time, 2024. He wouldn't run again. He wouldn't run in 2028. So this would be his last hurrah. He wouldn't accept the outcome, so I do think that if Trump is the nominee, which it looks like he will be, I don't think any Republican could beat him. Even Ron DeSantis, the most prominent Republican at the moment that could challenge Trump, I don't think he has a chance. I think Trump would blow him out of the water. So then what are we left with then? We're left with a situation where Trump wins, and either he wins or he loses and doesn't concede again. And I do think it's reasonable to be concerned. Are there some people that maybe overstate it in some sense when they should be focusing on other issues, potentially? Is this the best thing electorally to focus on? Like, is this what's going to win elections? I don't think so. I don't think that the January 6th committee, no matter how important you think the January 6th committee is, this is nowhere near what Americans care the most about right now. There's been substantial polling on this. It's nowhere. Americans right now care about inflation. They care about the economy. They care about the overall economic devastation that is being laid upon them right now. And I think that you don't want the Democrats to lose. This is a legitimate threat. The idea that Trump won't concede in 2024, I think it's a very legitimate threat. But if you want to win that election, if you want to win 2024, if you want to win the midterms, weirdly, kind of almost paradoxically, it's not what you want to focus on. You want to focus on the economy. You want to focus on these bread and butter issues that will actually get people to the polls and that will actually help them win, will help Democrats win. That's why I think that Biden should not be the 2024 candidate. I think he would lose. He would lose to Trump. I think he would almost definitely lose to Trump this time if he ran again. I hope that's not true, but I think he would. I don't think he's going to run again, though. But I think that it's tough questions. It's a tough question. I do think it's a balancing act because I'm not saying it's not important. It's obviously very important, but I just don't think it's a winning issue. At least not right now. And I'm just going off the polling. And if someone presented me with evidence that showed that no, Trump's focus on the election is actually a very salient issue for voters, maybe I'd change my opinion. But from what I've seen, it's nowhere near Americans' top issue right now. And I think that Democrats need to be aware of that if they actually care about winning.